We're in the Gemara on Daf Zayin Amud Aleph, second line from the top of the Amud. This is a Gemara Agadete. There's a lot that could be said here in this Gemara, maybe a little bit, as much as time allows. We'll see what we can share over here. Sagt the Gemara Amar Abavohu, Gadol Yoim HaGeshamim B'Tchias HaMeisim. The day when it comes and it rains is greater than the day of Tchias HaMeisim. Di'lu Tchias HaMeisim L'Tzadikim. Tchias HaMeisim is only for Tzadikim. Vilu Geshamim, when it comes to rain, Bein LeTzadikim, Bein LeRishayim. Rain comes for everybody, both for Tzadikim and for Rishayim. So Rashi brings over here that Rishayim, Oiv de Kechavim, Rashi says, Rishayim Oiv de Kechavim do not get up for Tchias HaMeisim. Okay, but the emphasis that it's a famous letter from the Rebbe, where the Rebbe points out that even those people that the Gemara says that don't get up for Tchias HaMeisim, they don't get up on the regular level or the regular time of Tchias HaMeisim, maybe later or on a different time or on a different oifen. But we see the Gemara makes a distinction many places regarding Tchias HaMeisim, who will be Zeiche, who won't be Zeiche. When it comes to rain though, rain comes for everybody. So it's greater. Pliga de Rav Yosef, so Bavo is arguing Rav Yosef. Dam Rav Yosef, mitoich sheishkula ketchias hamesim. So Rav Yosef says that rain is actually equivalent to tchias hamesim, not greater. So therefore, kavua betchias hamesim. Therefore, the bracha of Mashav Ruach Hamer Dagashem was established to be said in the bracha of Atagiber, which the main theme of that bracha is tchias hamesim. Amar Rav Yudah said, Godul Yoim HaGeshamim, the day of when it rains is so great, Ki Yoim Shenitna B'Teira, like the day that Eibusha gave the Teira. Shenama, the pasuk says, Yarev Kamotar Likchi, that it will drip like rain, my words of Teira. And Vein Lekach, the term Lekach means Ela Teira. Shenama Ki Lekach Tov Nasati Lechem Teirasi Al Tazevel, that the Teira is a document that Eibusha gave you, do not leave the Teira. So you see that the pasuk is comparing rain to Teira. Or Teira to rain, actually. Rava Marava says, Yosim Yom Shenitnu Bei Teira. Rain, when it comes and rains, it's even greater than the day the Eibusha gave Teira. Shenema Yarav Kamata Likhi. We're comparing Teira to rain. Mi Nitla B'mi. Who do you depend on who? Who do you connect to what? Have a Oime Cotton Nitla Begadol. Something that's smaller, you compare and depend on one that's greater. So the fact that we're comparing Teira to rain, we're trying to praise the Teira and saying that it's like rain, so that means that the rain itself is even greater. Rava asked a question. Siv, in one pasuk it says, Yarev Kamata Likhi, that the Teira comes like rain, and it uses the term Yarev, which could be a negative term, as we'll see. Or Ksiv, and there's another pasuk that says, Tizal Katalim Rasi, that the Teira comes down like dew. So what's the difference? So the answer is, if Talmud Chacham Hoganu, if a person is a Talmud Chacham, but he's Hogan, he's appropriate, he's proper, and his behavior is the way it's supposed to be, so then Ukatal. So then the Teira comes to him like the dew that comes down lightly and it's a bracha. But if not, oirfeyu kamatar. So then the Teira that this person learns will snap him, or it will kill him like rain that could come down with a very heavy force and it kills a person. Tanya, so we learned Nabraisa in connection to this. A person that learns Teira for the proper reason, for the sake, in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Limudat Teira, as Rashi over here says, that he's learning Teira for the mitzvah, and not in order to get a title Rebbe, that people should look at him as a smart man. So then, the Teira becomes for him a potion of life. Teira is a Eitz Chaim, it's a tree of life for those that hold on to it. And Va'ayme rifus tihilu sharecha. Teira is a healing for your body. And Va'ayme, a third pasuk, ki moitze moitze chayim. One that finds Teira finds life. One that learns Teira not for the sake of the mitzvah of learning Teira. Nasis le sama move. So the Teira is an opposite of life. Shenema, the pasuk we just quoted, Yarev kamata likhi. Vein arifa el ariga. The term Yarev is means to kill. Shenema va'orfu shamas egla banachal. By the egla rufa it says that you chop off its head from the neck in the stream over there. So you see that Yarev means to kill. So as I mentioned, Rashi's pshat in the Gemara is that Shaloi Lishma means someone that learns Teira lehikaris Rebbe, because he wants to have a name of a Rebbe. Taisus, however, brings the famous Gemara. It's in a few places that Lo'ilam Yasagadim b'Teira Shaloi Lishma. That you should learn Shaloi Lishma. So how could the Gemara say such a harsh thing about a person that learns Shaloi Lishma? So Taisvis says, when the Gemara says you should learn Shaloi Lishma, that's taka someone that learns Al Manashi Kari Rebbe, or that he wants the honor of the Teira. When it says in our Gemara, you shouldn't learn Shalei Lishma, it's when you're learning Lekanter. You're only learning Torah because you want to refute what someone else said. You're not even learning Torah for the sake of understanding the Torah B'chlal. So Taisus has a different shot in the Gemara here. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Yirmiyah said to Rabbi Zera, Leisi ma lisni, come and teach us Torah. Amalei, so Rabbi Zera said, Cholash li boy, I'm weak, my heart is weak, I can't teach now. V'lo yachilna, can't. So he said, no, so if you can't teach Torah, say some words of Agada, of Drush, it's easier, lighter to teach. So he answered, this is what Rabbi Yechanan said. What's the meaning of the pasuk that it says, a person, a human being, is compared to a tree that's growing in the field. Is a person compared to a tree in the field? Ella, the reason is Mishum Dechsiv, because there's one pasuk that says you should eat from the fruits of the tree and you shouldn't cut it down. And then the pasuk in the next pasuk says Oisei Tashchis, this you could destroy, and V'karis you can cut it off. So regarding a human being that's compared to a tree, what's the difference? Ha Keitzat. Im Talmid Chacham Hagunu. If he's a Talmid Chacham that has proper behavior, Mimenu Teichal, you should eat from him, you should learn Torah from him. And V'Yisrael Tichres, don't cut him down. V'im Lav, but if not, Oisei Tashchis V'karis, Talmid Chacham that learns Torah that doesn't have proper behavior, you should cut him down and don't learn Torah from him. So this is a Gemara that the Rebbe mentioned and spoke about many, many times. So what's this concept of a person being compared that is, to a tree? And in one Sikha, which is in Chelik Chav Dalet Parsha Shoftim, the Rebbe explained that what the Gemara is talking about over here is, a person learns Torah, what's the main thing of Torah? The Chachma of the Torah. But nevertheless, the Gemara is saying Hagun. Hagun refers to the midas of a person, that you have to have good midas. And midas is something that's actually deeper in a person. V'haraya, seichel is something which is more objective. You can have one opinion today, opinion tomorrow. You look at things objectively. It's not necessarily rooted so deeply in the person. A midah that a person is born with, a certain nature that a person has, that's something that's very, very deep. And therefore the Rebbe says, when it comes to midas, it's compared to a tzemeach. A tzemeach is planted in one place. You have a tree that's planted in one place. You can't move it around from one place to another. A chai could walk around from one place to another. The midas of a person are very deep. If you want to know whether the Torah really touched a person, you look at his midas. The seichel of the Torah, the way it's affecting a person, that's the knowledge, that's something that can change from one day to another. You can be very smart, but it doesn't mean anything necessarily regarding the character and the nature of the person. So that's the point that the Gemara is saying. Hagun is the behavior of the midas of the person, which is compared to a tzemeach, which is very rooted very deeply. Amar Rab Chamer said, Amar Rab Chanina, Mai Dechsev. What's the meaning of the pasuk that says Barzel bebarzel yachad? That you have one metal and another metal that are sharpened one on another. Lei malacha, this comes to tell you, Ma barzel zeh, just like you have these two pieces of metal, Echad machad des chavere, one sharpens another. It's like you sharpen a knife on another piece of metal, or you could sharpen a knife on another on another knife. So Afshnei Tamidei Chachamim, so too the two Tamidei Chachamim mechadedin zeh ba'alacha. Tamidei Chacham that learn one with another, they sharpen one another in halacha. This is actually the continuation of the pasuk, as Rashi brings v'ish yachad pnei re'eyu. That when you learn with a friend, when you learn together, you sharpen one another. Sagt die Gemara weiter, Omar Rabbe Bar Bachana, Lama nimshlu divrei Torah ke'esh. Why is Torah compared to fire? Shenem alei koi dvarei ke'esh, no Hashem, Torah, the words of Hashem is fire. To tell you, just like a fire, you can't light it with just a single piece of wood, it's not going to last. Torah does not last with just one small piece of wood. You have to have a few pieces of wood together. This is also what Rabbi Yossi B'Chanina said. What is the meaning of the pasuk when it says Cherev al abadim v'noyalu? So Darshan is this pasuk as follows: Cherev al sein'ein shel tamidei chachamim. A sword upon the haters of Talmidei Chachamim, which is a euphemism being used for the Talmidei Chachamim themselves. She'oiskim bad bebad b'Torah, that sit and learn Torah, but they sit and learn alone. They don't learn with a chavrusa, they don't learn in a shiur, they just sit and learn alone. So this is something which is negative. It's a cherev, a sword. Not only this, it causes them to become foolish. Shenema v'noy olu. V'noy olu means to be a fool. Not only this, you could end up sinning. Why? Because ksiv hacha, we see here it says v'noy alu. Ksiv asam, in another pasuk it says ashanayalnu, we were foolish v'ashechatanu, and we sinned. So you see that nayalnu is related to coming to sin. V'bayisayim, another source mehacha, noyalu sarei tzayan v'goymer, sarei tzayan were foolish v'hisu es mitzrayim, and it caused Mitzrayim to go off the path, meaning to sin. Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, Lama nimshlu divrei Torah ke'etz. Why is Torah compared to wood? Shenema, the pasuk says, Eitz chayim yila machzikim ba. The pasuk says it's compared to wood, that you're holding on to a tree, to a wood of life. Eitz cotton, madlik es hagadol. Just like when you light wood on fire, you use a little sliver of wood to light a larger log of wood. Af tamidei chachamim ketanim mechadedim es hagdolim. The smaller, the younger ones, the smaller ones, they sharpen the greater ones. Chanina said, Harbe lamadati merabaisai. I learned a lot from my teachers. Umechaveda yoisem merabaisai. From my colleagues, I learned more than my teachers. Umitalmida yoisem mikulam. From my students, I learned more than anyone else. Rashi here says that students are always asking questions. Why like this? Why like that? So in the students, you end up learning much more. Chanina bar Papa asked the question. Ksiv in one pasuk it says, Likras tzama hasayu mayim. Person that's thirsty, bring the water to him. Uksiv in another pasuk it says, Hoy kol tzama luchula mayim. That a person that's thirsty, he should go to the water. So water is a mashal that's used for Torah. So the question is, do you bring the Torah to the person that has to learn it, or does she come to you to learn the Torah? So the answer is, Talmud Hagen hu, if this is a Talmud that behaves appropriately, so then you should go to him and teach him Torah. You should go, get such a person to learn Torah. If he doesn't have appropriate behavior, so then let him change his behavior. He has to come to you to learn Torah. In one pasuk it says, your well springs will spread outward. We're learning this in Chodesh Kislev. In another pasuk it says, that Torah is just for you alone. So Rashi here actually says that Mayanisecha goes on Sisrei Torah. Right? So this Indian that's always brought, Yifutza Mayanisecha Chutza, that it goes on Chassidus, on Pnimiyus HaTorah. Rashi here says that Sisrei Torah. So why does it say Futza Mayanisecha Chutza, and another time it says Yilu Chalavatcha? In Talmud Hagun hu, if this is a Talmud that has appropriate behavior, Yifutza Mayanisecha Chutza. So you have to spread it then outward to him. Vim lav, but if not, Yilu Chalavatcha. Then you keep it for yourself, you keep it separated from him, and you don't give it to Ve'ein Lazar Mitcha, the continuation of that pasuk. Very interesting Gemara, because everyone knows what the Rebbe said so many times, that when it comes to Yifutza Mayanisecha, because the pasuk says chutza, there's no limitations to this. You should spread it out, chutza, to everybody without any limitations. Here the Gemara seems to be saying that there's a certain limitation. Elamai, l'chayri, we must say that sof b'pnimius, b'emes, every single yid is hogan. Every single yid has that neshama in him, and therefore we can spread the Torah to everybody, the pnimius ha-Torah. Sagt the Gemara weiter, Rab Chanina bar Idi. Why is Torah compared to water? Anyone that's thirsty should go to water, so why is it compared to water? Just like water leaves its place in the high hills and it flows down to the valley. Torah does not last with someone that's a balgaiva, it only lasts by someone that's humble. So here in the Gemara, it's speaking about the humility of a person. That's why Torah is compared to water. And this is also, the famous husband that it says regarding Torah, the main thing of Torah is not the chachma of the Torah. It's the Eibishter in the Torah. And therefore the Eibishter says he could only be with someone that's humble. In Tanya, though, in Perik Daled, Alter Rebbe says a different pshat regarding what the Gemara is saying here, that Torah is compared to water also mitzad the Torah itself. Because the Torah itself comes down from its source Lamaila. Torah in this world that we have was Yardav and Islapshav and Ishtalshla into this world. So it's not only mitzvah the person, but it's the Torah itself. Rabbi said, why is Torah compared to the following three liquids? With water, wine, and milk. Regarding water, as we just quoted, the pasuk says, and regarding wine and milk, there's a pasuk that says, go buy and eat, go buy, get without paying any money, without any price, wine and milk, and this is a pasuk that's speaking about the Torah that you can get without any price. So why is it compared to wine and milk? To tell you, just like water, milk, and wine, where do you store them? You store them in very simple vessels. You store them in earthenware vessels. So too it comes to the words of Torah. It won't last. That can't be stored only by someone that's very humble. And the Gemara shares an incident, a story that happened with this. The daughter of the Keser said to Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, if you look, wow, such a great wisdom, beautiful wisdom you have, but this great beautiful wisdom is in an ugly vessel. She said, your looks don't match your wisdom. So he responded to her and said as follows: Avich, your father, Rami Chamre, B'mani de Pachra, does he store the wine in these very inferior vessels, or like in earthenware vessels? Amr alei, so she says to him, Ela b'mayin near me, what else should he store his wine in? Amalah, so he says to her, Atun de Chashvisu, you're such great honorable people, Rama b'mani dave v'kaspe, you should put it into gold or silver vessels. Azlav Amr alei la'avua, she went and told this to her father. So Ram Yelochamre, the father went and he placed the wine b'mani dave v'kaspe, in gold and silver. He was storing the wine in gold and silver vessels. What happened? V'takif. Gold and silver is not a place to store wine, and the wine became sour. Asu v'amrulei. So they came and told the emperor about what happened. Amar lo lebrati. So he went and told his daughter, Mana malachachi, who told you to do this? Who told you that you should store the wine in silver and gold? Amraleh, so she said to him, Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya. Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya told me this. Karyu, so they called him Amarleh, so he says to the emperor, so Amarleh, that is, the emperor said to him, Amay amrit lahachi, why did you tell her this? Amarleh, so he explained and said, Ki heichi da amrali, just like she told me that a great wisdom like this in such a disgusting and ugly vessel, so Amrillah, I told her the same thing, that your good wine is also in ugly vessels. Sagt the Gemara, shapiri de gemiri. We do see those Talmidei Chachamim that are very good, beautiful looking, and yet they learn and they know Torah very well. So we see that not necessarily is this a condition that you have to be someone that is ugly in order to have the Chachma in you. So the Gemara says, sonu tvei gemiri. But if they would be sonu, Taisus over here says, sonu means if they would hate their beauty, if they would not give any attention to their beauty, so then they would actually be able to learn even more. They would be more humble, and they would not forget the Torah that they learned. That's what Ashir says. Another pshat of why Torah is compared to these mashkin over here, to these liquids of water, wine, and milk. Just like these three liquids, it's something that will be unfit for drinking if you don't pay attention to it. It could be something that can become, can spill or can get dirty and so on. So too, Torah is not forgotten unless you're not constantly reviewing the Torah that you learn. So Rashi explains what's unique about these three mashkins. You have other kinds of mashkin, for example, honey or oil, Rashi says, which are thicker liquids. So if dirt falls into it, the dirt doesn't sink to the bottom. You can easily skim the dirt off from the top. But these three mashkin, the dirt goes to the bottom, and therefore it gets mixed in, and you can't use it anymore. So it's the same thing also regarding a person that's masiyach das and allows dirt to come in and he doesn't review what he learns. The day when it rains is great. It's like the day that heaven and earth were created. There's a pasuk that says, it rains from heaven, and it drips from shchokim, from the heavens. It drips righteousness. Tiftach eretz v'yifru yesha otzdoket tatzmiach yachad ani Hashem barasiv. I am Hashem that created it. So the Gemara says, what does Berasiv refer to? Berasim loinama. When it says in the pasuk, it doesn't refer to the Shemayim va'aretz, that the Eibusha created heavens, but it says Berasiv, I created the rain. Because the pasuk over here is saying how chashuv the rain itself is. It's like the day that the Eibusha created heaven and earth. Same thing also, the Eibusha is creating the rain in the world that's as great as the day of creation. The day of rain is so great. Shafili Yeshua part of it. All other kinds of salvation multiply in this day. Rashi says that Lamaila, the Malachim see when it's a day of rain. So the Malachim that want to be Malamet Schus come and speak to the Eibishter on this day because it's a very good time. It's Zman Mesugel. Right? People always say when it's a rain, there's the Vart to the Baal Shem Tov, when you see water, it's a Siman Bracha. Rain is a good sign. Here the Gemara is saying a day that it rains, it's a Eis Ratzin Lamaila, and all you can bring Yeshuas into the world. Shenema Tifta Charetz, it opens up and it rains on the earth. V'yifru Yasha, and it multiplies salvation. The rain doesn't come down unless the Averis of the Yidden were forgiven. The Pasuk says, Shafta Shvus Yaakov, that the Eibishter was appeased by in the land, and Shafta Shvus Yaakov, the Yidden returned. Nasasa Avayra Mecha Kisisa Kol Chatasim Selo. So Artzecha refers to the rain that comes down to the land. When does the rain come down? When the Yidden do tshuva and the Eibishter forgives them. Amalei Ziri midi Yehivas. Ziri from Yehiva said, L'Ravina to Ravina, Aton mehocha masnitula. You're learning this concept from this pasuk that the rain comes when Yidden do tshuva. Anan macha masninan la. I learned it from a different pasuk. Va'ata tishma shamayim, that the heavens will listen and the rain will come down. V'salachto l'chatos, and the Eibishter forgives to the Averis. Only when the Eibishter forgives, then the rain comes down. When is the rain held up? And here the Gemara is going to bring a bunch of different opinions. What causes rain to be held up? If the rain is being held up, what this means is which is a euphemism regarding Yidden themselves, that they deserve to be destroyed. That's what it's a sign for. When it's thirsty and it's hot outside and there's no rain, and that they're stealing, taking away all the snow that should come. Sha'oil chatu. Yidden deserve to go and sha'oil, deserve to be killed. Chatu, they sinned. So again, he said to Ravina, you're bringing it from this pasuk masnita law. We see this in Kriyashma. So what does it say afterwards? That you will be destroyed. So we see that when there's no rain, it's a time when Yidden Chas v'Shalom deserve to have avad tameira. Rav Chisda said, the rain is not held up. It's when Yidden don't fulfill the mitzvah of giving trumas amaisris properly. Shanaba, the pasuk says, that it's thirsty and it's hot. This steals away the snow of the winter. And the Gemara explains the drasha, my mashma, how do you see from here? Rabbi Shmuel explained, it's because of those mitzvahs that I command you to do in the summer, which is trumas and maisris. When the produce is in the field and you have to give the trumas and maisris and you didn't fulfill them, that's what the chaim is. The Eibusha steals and takes away from you the snow of the winter. Why is rain held up? Because of people that say Lashon Hara. Shenema, it says in the pasuk, Ruach tzofen tochaylol geshem, a wind from the north brings the rain. Uponim nizamim Lashon Seiser. But you'll have sour faces if you have Lashon Seiser, which is the Lashon Hara. Reason why rain is held up is because of people that are azei ponim, people that have chutzpah. And we're talking about people that are using their chutzpah in the negative, doing averis. Shenema, the pasuk says, "Vayimnu revivim umalkoish lehoya," that the drips and the rain is held up. Umetzach isha zayna hoya lecha, and you have a isha zayna, which is a metzach. Metzach literally means a forehead, someone that has chutzpah. V'amrav salam rav amnune koladim sheyesh leyazis panim, a person that has chutzpah in him. Soif nichshal ba'avera. In the end, he can stumble in a avera. Shenema umetzach isha zayna. So it says metzach, and then it says isha zayna. Rav Nachman says it's not that he will fall into Aveda, but rather biyudua shenichshel ba'aveda. The fact that he has this kind of behavior, that's a sign that he did already stumble in an Aveda. Shenema hoya locha v'loinema yeh locha. Hoya is past tense, that he already stumbled in an Aveda, not future tense. A person that has azas ponim, you're allowed to refer to him as a rasha. So Taisus brings that usually the Gemara in Kedushin says that you're not allowed to refer to a person as a rasha, but in this person you're allowed to call him a rasha. You can be sure that he deserves that title. Shanema ha'iz ish rasha b'fanav. So you see, the person with a chutzpah is a rasha. Rav Nachman says, you're allowed to hate him as well. Shenema va'az panim yishuna. That's the way, it's the simple reading of the pasuk. But al tikri yishuna ela yisna, or yisna, that you can hate a person that's a rasha. Okay, obviously this is how, this when we're talking about chutzpah, we're talking about chutzpah in the negative sense, as the Mefarshim point out over here, and also the sinner that there is for a rasha. The Alter Rebbe famously in Tanya, Perek Lamed Beis, talks about exactly all the stipulations and conditions when you can hate someone, which is a Rasha. After you read all those conditions in Tanya there, it's not so simple. Rain is held up because of bittul Torah. Shenema, the pasuk says, "Bat saltayim," because of your laziness that you don't learn. Yimach hamikra. Yimach means you become small. Hamikra, or I think it's read hamakra. See over here the pasuk hamikara, referring to the Eibishter. So as the Gemara will explain, the laziness that Yidden don't learn Torah, nasa seinish shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu mach. Seinish shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the ones that hate the Eibishter, referring over here to Yidden, they become humble. They're lowered down. Ve'machalani, mach means that they become poor. Shenam ve'machu me'arkecha, when the pasuk says when someone becomes poor. Ve'mekara el HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter that creates a roof over your head. It's the Eibishter. Shenam mekara b'mayim al Yosef, going on the Eibishter. Rav Yosef says, you see over here in this pasuk, that the bittul Torah brings that there should be no rain. They did not see light. Boirhu bashchokim v'ruach ovra v'tetarem. And the Gemara will explain how you see in the pasuk that it speaks about rain and about Torah. Now, ve'ein oir ela Torah. When it says in the pasuk they don't see light, that refers to Torah. Shenam kinem mitzvah v'Torah oir. Torah is light. Now, when it says boirhu bashchokim, what does this mean? Tana the Rabbi Shmuel, afilu b'shah sherekia nase b'hoirin, even when in the sky it becomes cloudy and it's like b'hoirin. B'hoirin is like when you have a nega and you have those white spots on your skin. So even when the sky has those white spots of clouds, l'hoiret talamatar, and it's gonna rain, what happens is ruach avre vatatarim, a wind comes and cleans it away. What holds up the rain because of stealing? Shenema al kapayim kisa oir kisa oir. Because of kapayim, because of your palms, the Eibusha covers the light. So the Gemara explains the drasha. But oven kapayim kisa oir, because of the aveda with the palms of your hand, the Eibusha covers light. And vein kapayim elachamos. Kapayim refers to stealing. Shenema min achamos asher kapayim. The stealing, what they stole, that's in their palms. Vein oir elamatar. And in this pasuk, oir, light, refers to rain. Shenema yafitz onan oirei. The Eibusha spreads the clouds of the rain. Oir over here means rain. My takante, how do you rectify this? Yar bebetfila. When it doesn't rain, so you have to daven. Shenema v'yitzav olav b'mavgia. I commanded him to mavgia. What does mavgia mean? Ve'im pegia elatfila. Pegia means to daven. Shenema v'atal t'spal ba'adam hazev al tivgabi. Do not daven to me. Rabami said, what is the meaning of the pasuk where it says, in keya habarzel v'hu loy panim kilkil? So what does this pasuk mean? If you see that the sky is dull like a piece of metal, like a dull piece of metal, that the rain is not coming down. So what is the reason for this? It's because of the activity, the people, that what they're doing in the generation, that's not good. Ma takanosan, how do you rectify this? Yizgabru berachmim. They should daven. Shenamar, and the pasuk over there continues and says, v'chayalim yigbar. Chayalim means that all the people of the army, all the many people, yigbar, should strengthen themselves to daven to the Eibishter. Then the pasuk there continues and says, v'yisroin hachsher chochma. What does this mean? Kol shekeng, most definitely it's going to be good and it's going to rain. Im hochsheru masayim meikara. If from the beginning they never sinned and everything is good from the beginning, for sure they'll have the proper rain that they need.